let's get into this now. Make no mistake, 2018 has been an eventful year. I'm sure you'll agree. Jacob Zuma quit as the country's president. There were all sorts of drama at the state capture inquiry, with the finance minister resigning. And to top it all off, President Cyril Ramaphosa sacked the taxman, former SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane. And of course, who better to make sense of it all than cartoonist and political commentator Jonathan Shapiro, known to you and I as Zapiro. His annual cartoon collection, Let the Sun Shine In, is being launched this week. Happy Sunday. How are you?
Happy Sunday to you. Thank you.
We'll get into your annual in a moment, but you also have this special treat for us, WTF, Capturing Zuma, a cartoonist's tale. You have been accused of being obsessed with former President Jacob Zuma. What do you say to that? How do you respond to these accusations of an obsession?
I'm not at all obsessed with Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma, if you have the apex person in any country who is eventually shown to have actually captured the country along with other people who are not even part of his government, then, you know, that person becomes the biggest target and the biggest, I suppose, national obsession. I mean, it should be. So I'm not personally obsessed by him, but as someone who criticizes, well, we often, cartoonists and satirists, are people in a way, if people start getting worried about what you're saying, then that's one way of saying, oh, you're just an attention seeker, you're obsessed with the person, whatever. No, not at all. But I think that what some people who say that to me forget is that there's a cartoon in there, in this book. Well, let me ask you, when do you think the first corruption cartoon of Zuma was? More or less.
Sure.
Give me a year. Just, and
6, 7 years ago?
6, 7 years ago. You see, even journalists, 2002.
Sure.
There's a cartoon in there that identifies Jacob Zuma as the one particular person to be watchful about. In 2002, at the ANC conference in Stellenbosch, so it's 5 years before Polokwane, there's this beautiful Stellenbosch Cape Dutch architecture, you know, one of these buildings, and there's oak trees, and the sun's shining, and there's one little dark cloud over one person. Only one person in the cartoon was Jacob Zuma. And that's because it was already in the public domain back then, that the corruption that started during the arms deal '99 was something that people knew about. So the ANC knew that Zuma was corrupt already in 2002, 5 years before he became ANC president, 7 years before he became national president. So if I'm trying to shine a light on that, is that obsessive?
Yeah. It depends on who you ask, I guess. And the extent to which that corruption ran is being unfolded or unveiled every single day in South Africa. It's been quite a dramatic year. Let's start with taking a look at the end of an era. I think this is an interesting depiction. All black, and you've got these bold words that say the end of an era.
You know, I had been thinking about that in reference to Jacob Zuma for a long time, but I didn't know when that era was going to end. And it's not an original usage of the words. That's I don't know, 3 decades has been used, maybe 4 decades, quite a few times. But to do it just like that in a cartoon with the shower as the F and the little shower dripping meant that people took a lot of notice of it. That got viewed 800,000 times.
Sure.
Yeah, it made quite an impact when it happened.
Sure. Who's obsessed now? Another frozen Gupta asset.
Very simple cartoon. As they started freezing the Gupta's assets, you know, so they had this empire that Zuma had farmed out some of his key functions to other people. That's the difference between ordinary corruption and state capture. So the president is giving them the opportunity to say who's going to be a cabinet minister, so that the tenders can go this way and that way, and then, you know, everybody gets kickbacks. That's state capture. And when they started freezing the Gupta's assets, I thought, well, they freeze. You know, if Zuma's a Gupta asset, he gets frozen
Very
too.
clever, very clever. And then the new dawn comes. Let the sun shine in, but there's just so much wake to be done.
That's just a black and white copy of the book cover. That is the book cover.
Yeah.
And I did a cartoon in the Sunday Times that was a bit similar to this with Cyril Ramaphosa as he comes in with his little plant that he's going to plant for the new dawn. A Cyril Spring, actually, it was labelled, and this little sprig that he's got to plant. But you know, as in this picture, he's just in this little opening. That's all these brambles and thorns. I went back to my Sleeping Beauty references, you know, where the castle gets covered over with those giant things. But the shower, you know, people say, what are you going to do without Jacob Zuma? Jacob Zuma is still there in the images, but he's there in our psyche, and he's there because the ANC is split between people who support the New Dawn and support Cyril Ramaphosa and people who absolutely don't, people whose vested interests are still with the corruption. And it's really split. I mean, you see Ace Magashule is ANC Secretary General, 100%. And you know, Didi Mabuza, who's not part of that exact faction, is Deputy President. So you've got a power struggle in the ANC, and that's kind of what this cover image and that whole idea is about. That we've got, it's going to be really hard work to actually cut through the stuff and let the sun shine in. Really
hard work to cut through the stuff, because we saw former Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene also resign over the Guptas. Now revelations of Pravin Gordhan as well with that. So Ramaphosa having a tough time here, where people that were seen to be, you know, trusted and clean and proper.
But watch for the spin there. Watch for the spin. I think that Nhlanhla Nene made some errors, but I think Nhlanhla Nene is basically a good and decent person, and he was kind of, he lied to the media about what happened. I think he was obviously embarrassed and it was difficult. He lied about the meetings, but I don't think that he was personally compromised at all compared to so many other people who are still in cabinet. I mean, look, Batabile Dlamini is still there, etc., etc. Gigaba is still there. So I think it was difficult. Now Pravin Gordhan, even more so. The smears are coming out. Pravin has really been one of those people who's at the heart of the, if you call it a kind of good versus evil struggle. Pravin Gordhan has done so much, and there's an attempt by some people within the ANC and also by the EFF, who have a lot to hide, to smear Pravin Gordhan. I think they're worried about the VBS scandal. They're also worried about Julius Malema's own finances, his taxes, etc., etc. And so they have now put themselves behind Tom Moyane, which is, I mean, if you want to back the wrong horse, back Tom Moyane.
I'm curious to find this out, because you're somebody who's very knowledgeable and very much in the know when it comes to politics in South Africa. That is part of your job in terms of depicting it in a lighter note, or on a lighter note. What influences what work you put out and what work you don't put out?
That's a good question. I mean, I used to ask my editors, and I used to ask myself the question, does it work? And can we justify it? And those questions served me well for a couple of decades. I think that what has happened now in the era of social media, where you do have echo chambers, you do have people who are trolls, people who are out to find whatever they think could be a weak link, even if it's fake news. Even if it's a way of, you know, you look at Trump, he can just say something and then his supporters will follow that. And we have similar things happening here. Jacob Zuma also does that, so does Malema and a lot of other people. So what I have to also ask is, not only does it work, not only can we justify it, but will the potential damage of something that can be misconstrued and is not part of the central message, will the potential damage be worse for the message than if I do it in a different way? And that's what I won't blunt the political impact of what I say, but I may have to find different ways of saying things every now and then, because, as you know, like, you can get taken down.
Yeah, fast.
And this book actually is just absolutely full of stories. This one is full of the stories of encounters with all the different protagonists over years and years. So it's been a very exciting thing to write this, and then the annual is kind of as what I do every year.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
the 23rd annual that I let the sun shine in.
Speaking of blunting, this particular one, I mean, this excited a number of South Africans in terms of that ruling on the legal private use of marijuana. High Court, highest court joint decision. There you've got Judge Davis, Judge Zondo, and of course Our Lady there. Where is Mr. The champion of this? He passed away, the IFP champion
Mario
on this, Mario
Ambrosini.
Ambrosini. Maybe he could have been in the clouds somewhere, you know.
You know that it's possible, but you know that even before Mario Ambrosini was championing that, and of course he was talking about medical marijuana and all of that, those usages. Helen Suzman was a big promoter of the decriminalization of dacha, and I once did a cartoon of Helen Suzman with a huge joint, massive joint like that, and she's taking a big hit. She's saying, "This is good." She had a ghetto blaster, old-fashioned ghetto blaster, and it's like skanking music and reggae and whatever. And she's taking a hit, and she says, "It's good stuff." And then she says, "Have a hit with," and it's Lady Justice, and she's kind of lifting up her thing and opens her eyes and gets a fright. And then I get a phone call, and this is sort of quite a proper voice says, "Is that Zapiro?" I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "This is Helen Suzman." So I said, "Oh, nice to speak to you." And she said, "You know, I really liked that cartoon."
Oh.
So I said, "Really?" You know, and she said, "Yes, you know, I do have a sense of humor."
What a special
and she
moment.
She wanted a signed copy.
What a special moment. But someone who may not like or appreciate this cartoon is Donald Trump. And of course, he caused a stir on the continent when he's referred to some of our countries as whole countries.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I suppose on TV is the only place where I might not say it. But no, I mean, he is so absolutely crass, and he hits the wrong note all the time. What's amazing is how long can he go with this die-hard bunch of supporters who just don't, and you know, some of them are here.
Yeah.
If I do cartoons about like this, or even less rude ones about anything critical of Donald Trump,
You get crazy responses?
Crazy responses. People say, "Oh, I know you know a little bit about South Africa, but you know nothing about America. Just keep quiet." Actually, it goes the same if I talk about Israel and Palestine, you know, whatever. If I say something in support of the Palestinians, I get told that if I say... Everybody's got their own...
Yep.
I often say we each have our own double standard to uphold.
Yeah, that's very
and
true.
I've put that in a cartoon once.
Thank you so much. This is so much of deliciousness. You can pick up your copy of Let the Sun Shine In, as well as WTF, Capturing Zuma, a Cartoonist's Tale. Zapiro, always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi.